Hello and welcome to ARIRANG News, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Hwang Ji-hye filling in for Laah Hyun-kyung. And these are the stories we're following at this hour. In her New Year's press conference, President Park Geun-hye once again emphasized the importance of structural reforms to prop up the ailing domestic economy. She dismissed speculation about a reshuffle of her presidential staff. Over 3 million people, including scores of world leaders, rallied across France in a massive show of unity and defiance after 17 people were killed last week. And Korea's labor minister calls on the public and private sectors to compromise on labor market reforms to reduce the number of temporary workers in the country. And President Park Geun-hye held a New Year's press conference earlier today where she talked about how she plans to run the country in the third year of her term in office. For more on this, let's connect to our presidential office correspondent, Choi Yoo-sun. Yoo-sun, take us through some of the key points of the president's remarks during the press conference.
Hi, Ji-hye. President Park spent a considerable amount of her 90-minute televised press conference talking about revitalizing the economy. Under her 3-year economic innovation plan put forth last year, President Park vowed to build a strong economic foundation by carrying out reforms in 4 major areas this year, namely the public sector, labor, finance, and education. She also talked about further expanding her creative economy initiatives and deregulation drive to breathe new life into the Korean economy. As for inter-Korean relations, President Park pledged to lay the groundwork for a peaceful unification, as this year marks the 70th anniversary of the division of the two Koreas following liberation from Japanese colonial rule. As a means to improve inter-Korean ties and increase cooperation, President Park expressed her hope of holding another round of reunions for families separated by the Korean War around the time of the Lunar New Year holiday next month. However, there was no change in her position on the North's nuclear weapons development. When asked about the possibility of a summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, President Park said that she is willing to meet with anyone if that would help the two Koreas peacefully unite. She added, however, that such talks cannot take place when the North's nuclear issue remains unresolved. Ji-hye?
Yoo-sun, now let's talk a bit about the document leak scandal. President Park's Civil Affairs Secretary Kim Young-han's refusal to appear at a parliamentary hearing and his resignation over the weekend put pressure on the president to carry out a major reshuffle of her office and cabinet, but she dismissed such speculation, right?
Right, President Park told the nation that she was sorry about the confusion that followed the leaked documents and vowed to ensure that such acts will not be repeated and vowed to restore order back in her administration, stressing, however, that how the prosecution has found no proof of her aides intervening in state affairs, as was stated in the alleged in the leaked documents. The president said that she has no plans to replace 3 of her secretaries who were accused of abusing their power. As for her chief of staff, President Park said that what's most important now is for administration to move forward with implementing her policies and that he will step down when all the tasks have been completed. I'm Choi Yoo-sun reporting on President Park's New Year's press conference.
A massive unity rally took place in Paris on Sunday to honor the victims of last week's terror attacks. Dozens of world leaders joined the march amid some of the tightest security the world has ever seen, as France remains on its highest state of alert. Our Son Jung-in reports.
French officials have described it as the largest march in the country's history. An unprecedented number of people, estimated to be more than 1.5 million, took part in a unity march in Paris, holding Je suis Charlie or I am Charlie signs. The rally, led by relatives of the victims, began on Sunday afternoon at the Place de la République.
And I think that we all have to fight for the values of our democracy of the republic, and that's why I think it's really important to be here today.
The march was held in response to the cold-blooded killings that began last Wednesday in the French capital when two brothers, Said and Sharif Kouachi, raided the offices of the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. It ended on Friday with the brothers and another gunman, Amity Coulibaly, being shot dead by police, but only after more people had lost their lives. In total, 17 innocent people were killed during the 3 days of violence. Thousands of police and soldiers were deployed to maintain security and protect those taking part, including more than 40 world leaders. French President François Hollande joined the rally, linking arms with leaders from Germany, Italy, Turkey, Britain, as well as Israel and the Palestinian territories in act of solidarity. The rally was held as more details of the terror attacks emerged. A video of Amity Coulibaly appeared on the internet on Sunday, in which he pledged allegiance to the group that calls itself Islamic State. In the 7-minute clip, he said the attacks were meant to cause fear across France and were in retaliation for foreign forces targeting IS militants in Iraq and Syria. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
And following the recent events in France, U.S. President Barack Obama has decided to invite allies to Washington next month for a security summit on how to try and prevent violent extremism around the world. Wrapping up a series of meetings with European officials in Paris on Sunday, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder said the meeting will be held in Washington on February 18th. Holder says the allies will discuss ways to counteract violence and ultimately defeat religious extremists who are bent on wreaking death and destruction. The White House also said that the meeting will stress the need for greater efforts at the grassroots level to tackle the issue. An update on the recent cyber attack on Sony Pictures. The U.S. National Security Agency has echoed the FBI's conclusion that North Korea was behind the attack. NSA Director Michael Rogers told the Daily Beast that the agency had partnered up with the FBI to help the U.S. government link Pyongyang to the cyber attack. Rogers said the NSA provided data and technical analysis as part of a broader interagency effort to help the government understand the incident. The FBI says it's very confident Pyongyang was behind the attack, adding that it had traced it to IP addresses only used by North Korean hackers. Some possible good news in the search for clues to what caused AirAsia Flight 8501 to go down 2 weeks ago. An Indonesian search team retrieved the flight data recorder on Sunday, but the cockpit voice recorder has yet to be found. The search is on after Navy divers began hearing pings from the black box. So far, 32 of 48 recovered bodies have been identified. Among those identified on Sunday were a Korean missionary couple. Indonesian police confirmed them as 37-year-old Park Sung-bum and his 34-year-old wife Lee Kyung-hwa. Head of the Disaster Victim Identification Unit said the pair was found still strapped to their seats on the seabed on Friday. Their 11-month-old daughter Park Geun-hye is still missing. At the National Assembly, lawmakers are set to vote on dozens of bills this Monday afternoon, including one related to compensation for families of the victims of the Seoul ferry disaster. A resolution to initiate a parliamentary investigation into overseas energy development projects by previous administrations is also expected to be adopted. Lawmakers will also select 3 candidates to be special inspectors in charge of preventing corruption involving presidential aides or relatives of the president. However, a controversial anti-corruption bill called the Kim Young-nan bill, named after the former head of the Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission, will not be part of the agenda as originally planned due to tight schedule. This is the last plenary meeting of the current extraordinary session. Now, Korea's labor minister has vowed to push ahead with sweeping reforms to the labor market. Lee Ki-kwon says the government is particularly focused on preventing companies from exploiting temporary or contract workers as cheap sources of labor that they can fire at any time. Kim Min-ji has the details.
The government is poised to spur its drive to radically overhaul the labor market. In an interview with Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency, Lee Ki-kwon, the Minister of Employment and Labor, said the labor management and government must reach an agreement on how to reform the labor market by March, saying no further delays are possible. The move comes on the back of chronic labor problems facing the nation, such as a high youth unemployment rate and a large number of contract or temporary workers. The minister said countries around the world are modifying labor rules in response to the changing environment, while Korea still maintains laws and regulations drawn up when the country was seeking rapid industrialization at all costs. Although it is important to meet a goal of boosting the country's employment rate to 70% from around 65% now, he said companies should not just try to hire more temporary workers. The minister said the reforms need to be centered on reducing the gap between workers in regards to wage and working conditions without cutting the number of jobs. He also wants to introduce a flexible wage and working hour system, particularly for workers approaching retirement, and get rid of seniority in the rewarding system and instead make it performance-based. He also urged companies to give temporary workers the chance to be hired full-time. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
And today, Korea has opened a carbon emissions trading market to tackle climate change. The new market is expected to help reduce carbon emissions by 30% over the next 5 years. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
A carbon emission trading market opened at the headquarters of the Korea Exchange in Busan on Monday. 526 business entities are participating in the market to buy and sell leftover emissions credits, much like a stock exchange. Through the trading system, Korea expects to reduce the amount of projected emissions by 30% by the year 2020.
It will require continuous preparation and interest from business entities. Additional emissions quotas could be necessary if they are building additional plants.
The government allocated nearly 1.6 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions to around 500 participating companies. That expires in 2017. Companies emitting more than 1 ton of chemical substances are required by law to participate in the emissions trading market. Among the companies participating are some of the country's biggest conglomerates, including Samsung Steel Industries and Hanwha Fine Chemical Corporation. Korea is the 7th biggest carbon emitter in the world, releasing nearly 2% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
And Korea's auto exports dropped for the second straight year in 2014, largely due to the sluggish market in Eastern Europe and Latin America. The Trade Ministry says overseas shipments of Korean automobiles stood a little over 3 million units last year, down 0.9% from the previous year. The ministry attributed the decline to falling exports to East Europe and Central America. Despite the fall in volume, the value of Korea's vehicle exports rose by slightly over 0.5% on year to an all-time high of more than $48 billion. On this week's Industry Insight, we take a look at a local e-commerce startup that has broken away from the rest to become one of the country's leading online retailers. It's called Coupang, and its innovative strategies and breakneck growth have attracted investors from home and abroad. Connie Lee has more.
It's a click here and a click there. And whether it's a box of diapers, a bag of coconut flakes, or a new winter coat, you can get the item delivered right to your door before the end of the day.
안녕하세요. 쿠팡에서 왔습니다.
It's all done through Coupang, which promotes itself as the country's leading e-commerce company.
The four-year-old company has grown quickly. In January 2011, it recorded 1 million subscribers and around $270 million in transactions that year. But today, there's around 25 million subscribers, with last year's transactions projected to be about $1.8 billion. Most shoppers use its mobile app, which was the #1 shopping app last year, beating out competitors like We Make Price and Ticket Monster. Coupang started out as a daily deal site by Harvard grad Bum Kim, but is now a full-fledged e-commerce company with more than 2,000 employees who enjoy an open office space in Seoul that looks like it belongs in Silicon Valley. The Korean startup has attracted U.S. investors and most recently raised $300 million from a group led by BlackRock. Investors point to Coupang's same-day service model, mobile expertise, and online offerings as the features that make the company one to watch. Coupang says it knows how to lure in the customers, especially to its mobile app.
You may think the secret is simply behind the design and layout, but in fact, there's a lot of technology and research that goes into this. We were able to keep up with that.
The company also says there's nothing like its end-to-end customer service, which involves using its own delivery personnel, including the Coupang Man. The Coupang Man does not fly, but his services are compared to that through the company's so-called rocket delivery. This may be the key to getting repeat customers.
It went from buying just necessities and grew into just buying basically everything.
I met with one avid user.
So a lot of times I'm not home when they're delivering something, but they always send me a message. They even take a photo, and then they send me the text message, this is where we left it. So I'm almost 100% sure I'm going to be getting the item that I received, which actually hasn't been the case when I've used other services.
Coupang has even given new life to businesses that have partnered with it. This online shopping mall, which specializes in trendy, feminine pieces, has seen its annual sales increase 20-fold after partnering with Coupang to sell its items.
The marketing and promotion of my brand through Coupang was incredible, led me to sell 10,000 items in a day. I've now expanded my business and created another brand.
As for Coupang's future, Willa says it wants to solidify its position as a top online retailer here in Korea and expand its delivery service before branching out to the world.
We hope that one of these days, people will look back and ask themselves, how do we ever live without Coupang?
Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
Now we'll be getting to the weather shortly, but it's mid-January, so as you'd expect, it's very cold here in Korea. The sub-freezing temperatures usually mean surging heating bills, which add an extra expense to households already struggling to get by. So, with some tips on how to better insulate your home and hopefully save you a little extra cash, here's our Polly.
Shielding your home from the frigid outdoor weather can be easy and cost-effective. A roll of bubble wrap is one of the most popular items used in Korea to help keep indoor temperatures warm in the winter. But is there something better? This new product on the market aims to answer that question by using a spray-on type of insulation. In a comparison test, one window pane is covered with bubble wrap and another sprayed with the liquid-type insulator. 30 minutes later, the surface temperature of both windows are measured with an infrared camera. The window with the bubble wrap measures 18 degrees Celsius or 3 degrees higher than before, while the one sprayed with the organic silicone reads 19 degrees. Overall, both show welcome results without costing a fortune. Effectively managing heating systems can also lower monthly costs. This device, called Smart Valve, helps regulate room temperatures automatically. The wax compound is designed to expand inside a gas valve in the presence of excessive heat, which blocks off the pipe. It reopens again when the temperature drops as the compound contracts.
Sometimes I forget to turn off the heater before I go out, and then my gas bill skyrockets. But after using the smart valve, I'm saving 30% on the average cost.
The device can also centralize heat to a specific area, helping to reduce energy usage.
Unlike a heating system that detects the air temperature, the smart valve measures the temperature of the floor, thus enabling to balance the room temperature in a more effective way.
These are just some of the many simple and efficient ideas that can help you keep warm during this chilly winter season without breaking the bank. Paul Yi, ARIRANG News.
Korean modern and contemporary art is gaining a foothold in the global art community, and our Im Yoon-hee has a couple of artists who have helped pave the road there. Good afternoon, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon. So from media art to painting, today I have a couple of artists who have stayed way ahead of the curve of their time. Now, while initially their creations surprised many people, now they're considered precious gems to the Korean art community, so take a look.
It's reminiscent of Michelangelo's classic statue of the Virgin Mary. But it's got an odd twist. Korean iconic media artist Lee Nam is no stranger to blending the old with the new, and the East with the West. He takes the familiarity of classic works of art and adds a new media twist, like in his work Why Jesus Christ Shouldered a Television. The barriers between mediums are blurred as he experiments with ideas, creating unique blends of culture and time.
I wanted to show the harmony with this fusion and show the meaning of coexistence.
Originally a sculptor, Lee's fascination with media art has resulted in these globally recognized contemporary art pieces. Caught in the midst of a turbulent era, artist Kim Po-hyun, also known as Po Kim, lived, breathed, and created art for almost a century. Born in 1915, Kim saw the transformation of a country and the destruction of the Korean War, reflected in his works. One of the early pioneering Korean contemporary artists to study abroad, Kim paved the way for others, creating delicate and sophisticated modern pieces well before the rest of the art community. As an abstract expressionist, his works also embody images of happiness and hope, something carried by Kim through the decades.
And you were telling me that Po Kim has a unique background. Tell us more about him.
Right, so he does have quite the story behind. He has quite an artist story to tell. So initially, he wasn't really recognized for his work. Artist Kim was way ahead of his schedule, and he actually, when he was recognized, people called him. Said he was very sophisticated. Even the Times magazine said that his work was very elegant, very subtly elegant. And so when he left Korea, he actually left with just a couple of $100s in his pocket and went to the States and studied. And he actually, made ends meet by teaching and by creating windows. But in the end, he really did come back to Korea, and he really did make an influence here, not only in the Korean art community, but abroad as well.
I know, and the other artist that just came out in the VCR, he's also making some new developments abroad, right?
Right, so Artist Lee actually very excitingly was invited to have a special exhibition at the 2015 Vienna Biennale. That is a huge deal for artists, so he'll be able to show his work there. But he also has permanent works installed all over the world, and that's really because I think he's recognized for being able to embody the beauty of Korean art and kind of add in a contemporary, modern twist to it. And so he's really being recognized for that, and so we get to see him this year at the Biennale.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, and thank you for the report today, Yoon-hee.
You're very welcome.
Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Shaw Park here with the latest weather forecast. Just when we thought we were relieved by this cold weather, sudden cold spell came upon us this morning, dropping the mercury way down to -8 degrees Celsius. However, the weather is getting much better as we speak, and eventually it's expected to recover to its seasonal average once again. Now the highs will be ranging between 2 and 8 degrees depending on the regions. Dry weather alert has been issued in Gangwon-do and in some of the Gyeongsang-do provinces. So make sure to be alert of any sources of fire starters. Now besides that, clear bright skies are upon us today due to the high pressure front that's coming in from China. Now taking a look at the readings for today, Seoul will peak up to 3 this afternoon, while Gwangju and Busan will reach up to 5 and 8 degrees. And to other regions, Jeju-Alin gets up to 8 as well. Dokdo hits down to 2, while Namkung reaches below the freezing at -2 degrees. That's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Michelle. That brings us to the end of our newscast. I'm Hwang Ji-hye. Thanks for staying with us. More updates coming up at 4 p.m. Korea time.